Captain Jake Morrison walked across the metal floor of his ship's command center and stopped near the big screen that showed the stars outside. The screen was full of blinking lights and strange colors, but Jake's eyes were fixed on one empty spot where no signals came from anymore. That empty spot was where Earth should be talking to them, but Earth had gone quiet 3 days ago. The ship was called Horizon's Edge, and it was one of the fastest ships humans had ever built. Jake had been the captain for 5 years now, and he had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. Earth never went quiet. Earth was always sending messages, always talking to the human colonies spread across dozens of different star systems. "Captain, we're getting more reports," said Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner, as he walked up to Jake with a small computer pad in his hands. Alex was a good officer who had worked with Jake for 2 years. He was smart and always stayed calm when things got bad. "The communications center on New Boston is saying they lost contact with Earth at the exact same time we did. So did the mining stations near Jupiter and the research labs on Mars." Jake took the pad and read the reports. Every human settlement in space was saying the same thing. At exactly 14:32 Galactic Standard Time, 3 days ago, Earth had stopped sending any kind of signal. No radio waves, no quantum messages, no emergency beacons, nothing. It was like Earth had just disappeared from the universe. "What about the other species?" Jake asked. "Are they having problems too?" Alex nodded and his face looked worried. "That's the really strange part, Captain. We're getting emergency messages from alien governments all over the galaxy. The Zenthari are saying something is wrong with their minds. The Korgoth Empire reports that their warriors are acting strange. Even the ethereal beings are sending panic signals, and they never talk to anyone." Dr. Lisa Grant came walking over to them. She was the ship's science officer and one of the smartest people Jake had ever met. Lisa studied alien life forms and had spent years learning how different species lived and thought. She was carrying a tablet full of data and looked very concerned. "Captain, I've been studying the alien reports that are coming in," Lisa said. "This isn't just about Earth going quiet. Something is happening to every major species in the galaxy, and it all started at the same time Earth went dark." Jake looked at the data on Lisa's tablet. There were charts and graphs showing communication patterns from hundreds of different worlds. The patterns all showed the same thing: normal activity until 3 days ago. Then everything started falling apart. "The Zenthari Collective has been a peaceful trading species for thousands of years," Lisa explained. "They use their minds to talk to each other across great distances without using machines. But now their young people can't do it anymore. The old ones are getting weaker every day." She moved her finger across the tablet to show more data. "The Korgoth Empire is even stranger. These are warriors who have been fighting wars for their entire history. Their whole society is built around being strong and aggressive, but now their soldiers are laying down their weapons and refusing to fight. Some of them are even crying, which no one has ever seen a Korgoth do before." Alex looked at his own reports. "The ethereal communion is the most disturbing case. These beings are made of pure energy and thought. They don't have physical bodies like we do, but the messages we're getting from them say they're becoming solid, becoming more like regular matter. They're terrified because they think they're dying." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had been in space long enough to know that when different alien species all had the same problem at the same time, it meant something very big and very bad was happening. "Do we have any idea what could cause all this?" Lisa shook her head. "I've never seen anything like it, Captain, but there's a pattern here. Look at what's happening to each species." She pointed to different parts of her data. The Zenthari are losing their group mind abilities and becoming more individual. The Korgoth are losing their warrior nature and becoming more peaceful. The ethereals are losing their energy forms and becoming more physical. "So they're all changing," Jake said. "Yes, but not just changing randomly," Lisa replied. "They're all changing in ways that make them more like humans. More individual thinking, more emotional range, more physical presence. It's like something is forcing the entire galaxy to become more human-like." Alex looked up from his communications panel. "Captain, we're getting a priority message from Admiral Patricia Stone at Fleet Command. She's ordering all available ships to head toward the Sol system immediately. Jake nodded. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. As the horizon's edge turned toward home, Jake stood looking at the stars and thinking about what Lisa had said. If Earth going dark was somehow making all alien species become more human-like, then that meant humans had been doing something important for the galaxy without even knowing it. Something that kept all the different species stable and unique. But what could humans possibly be doing that was so important? Humans weren't the oldest species in the galaxy. They weren't the strongest or the smartest. They had only been traveling between stars for about 300 years, which was very young compared to species like the Xanthari who had been exploring space for millions of years. "Captain," Alex called out, "long-range sensors are picking up something strange near the edge of the Sol system. There's some kind of energy barrier around the whole area where Earth should be." Jake walked over to look at the sensor readings. There was definitely something there. A massive structure or field of energy that surrounded the entire solar system where Earth was located. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, bigger than anything any known species could build. "How long until we reach the Sol system?" Jake asked. "At maximum speed, about 18 hours, Alex replied. Jake looked back at the empty spot on his communication screen where Earth's signals should be. Somewhere behind that energy barrier, 12 billion humans were either dead, captured, or trapped, and somehow their absence was tearing apart the balance of the entire galaxy. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "We are heading home to find out what happened to Earth. We don't know what we'll find when we get there, but whatever it is, we're going to bring our people home and fix whatever is broken in the galaxy. Prepare for anything." As the ship raced through space toward the mysterious barrier around Earth, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the universe. The horizon's edge had been traveling toward Earth for 15 hours when they met another human ship coming from the opposite direction. The ship was called Distant Thunder, and it looked badly damaged. Parts of its hull were twisted and burned, and its communication systems were barely working. Captain Jake Morrison ordered his crew to help repair the other ship and bring its captain aboard. Captain Maria Santos came through the airlock looking tired and scared. Jake had known Maria for several years. She was a good captain who ran a science and exploration ship. Her crew spent most of their time studying strange phenomena in deep space. "Jake, thank God we found you," Maria said as soon as she saw him. Her voice was shaking. "We were there when it happened. We saw the whole thing." Jake brought Maria to the ship's meeting room where Dr. Lisa Grant and Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner were waiting. Maria sat down heavily in a chair and accepted a cup of coffee from one of the crew members. "We were conducting research near the edge of the Sol system," Maria began. "My science team was studying some unusual energy readings that had been detected near Pluto. We thought it might be a new kind of cosmic radiation, or maybe signs of an unknown alien technology." She paused to drink some coffee and gather her thoughts. "Then 3 days ago at exactly 1432, we saw something that should have been impossible. A wave of energy came out of Earth. Not an explosion, but something much stranger. The wave was moving faster than light, which our science says can't happen, but we saw it with our own eyes." Lisa leaned forward with interest. "What did this energy wave look like?" "It was like watching space itself change color," Maria replied. "The wave was invisible to normal sight, but our instruments could track it. Wherever the wave went, space seemed to become empty of something important. Not matter or energy in the way we understand it, but something else entirely." Alex asked, "What happened to Earth when the wave started?" Maria's face became very serious. "That's the most frightening part. Earth didn't explode or get destroyed. Instead, it just stopped existing in our normal space. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing. Not even empty space, just a hole in reality where our home planet used to be." Jake felt his heart beating faster. "So Earth is gone." "Not gone," Maria corrected. "Hidden. My science officer managed to take some readings before we had to run away. Earth is still there, but it's been moved into what we call a pocket dimension. Someone or something has cut Earth off from the rest of the universe and put it somewhere else." Dr. Grant pulled out her tablet and started making notes. The energy wave you described, did it affect your ship? Not directly, Maria said. But we could feel something changing. My crew started acting differently almost immediately after the wave passed us. Our engineer, who had always been very logical and mechanical in his thinking, suddenly started writing poetry. Our weapons officer, who had never shown much emotion, began crying for no reason. It was like the wave had changed something fundamental about how our minds work. Alex looked at his communication reports. Captain Santos, we've been receiving emergency signals from alien species all across the galaxy. They're all reporting similar changes to their basic nature and abilities. Maria nodded. We intercepted some of those signals during our escape. The Zenthari are losing their telepathic connections. The Korgoth warriors are becoming pacifists. The ethereal beings are somehow becoming solid. Every species is changing, and they're all changing in ways that make them more like humans. Lisa stood up and walked to the room's display screen. She brought up charts showing the communication patterns from different alien civilizations over the past several days. Look at these patterns, she said, pointing to various data points. Before 3 days ago, each species had very distinct communication styles and thought patterns. The Zenthari used group consciousness. The Korgoth used aggressive dominance signals. The ethereals communicated through pure thought transmission. She changed the display to show more recent data. But now, all of their communication patterns are starting to look more similar to human patterns. Individual voices instead of group consciousness. Emotional content instead of pure dominance. Physical language instead of pure thought. Jake studied the charts. You're saying that humans somehow kept other species different from us, and now that Earth is gone, they're all becoming more human-like. Exactly, Lisa replied. But how could humans have that kind of influence? We're one of the youngest species in the galaxy. We've only been traveling between stars for a few centuries, while some of these other species have been spacefaring for millions of years. Captain Santos reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. My science officer gave me this before we had to abandon our research station. It's a recording of the energy readings from the moment Earth disappeared. She handed the device to Lisa, who plugged it into the ship's computer system. The screen filled with complex energy patterns and mathematical equations that looked like nothing any of them had seen before. The technology that created this pocket dimension is far beyond anything any known species possesses, Lisa said after studying the data. This isn't Zenthari psychic technology or Korgoth military engineering or even ethereal energy manipulation. This is something else entirely. Alex pointed to part of the display. Look at these power requirements. Whatever created this barrier around Earth is using massive amounts of energy. More energy than most entire civilizations produce. Where is that energy coming from? Jake asked. Maria looked uncomfortable. According to our readings, the energy is being drawn from Earth itself. Whatever has trapped our planet is using our own world as a power source to maintain the prison that holds it. The room went quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. 12 billion humans were trapped on Earth, and their captors were using Earth's own energy to keep them imprisoned. There's something else, Maria continued. Just before we lost all contact with Earth, we received one final transmission. It wasn't from any government or military source. It was from Dr. Kevin Nash, a scientist who works at the Global Physics Research Center in Geneva. She activated another recording. A man's voice filled the room, speaking quickly and with obvious fear. This is an emergency broadcast to all human ships and colonies. We have detected massive artificial structures appearing throughout the Sol system. These structures are not of human origin and show technology far beyond our current understanding. They appear to be some kind of containment system designed to isolate Earth from the rest of the galaxy. The builders of these structures are not responding to any communication attempts. We believe they intend to keep Earth separated from normal space indefinitely. All human ships should stay away from the Sol system until we can determine their intentions. This may be our final transmission. Good luck to all humanity among the stars. Jake felt anger building inside him. Someone had deliberately trapped Earth and was using his home planet as a power source for their prison. Do we have any idea who built these structures? Lisa looked at the energy readings again. The technology is completely unknown, but the scale suggests a species with capabilities far beyond any we've encountered. They would need to be ancient, powerful, and have access to science that we can't even understand. Alex received a signal on his communication panel. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Stone. She's assembled a fleet of 40 human ships near the edge of the Sol system. She wants all available vessels to join them immediately. Jake stood up. How long until we reach the fleet? 3 hours at current speed, Alex replied. Jake looked at Maria Santos. Will you and your crew join us? Maria nodded. My ship is damaged, but my crew knows more about what happened to Earth than anyone else alive. We'll do whatever we can to help get our people back. As both ships continued toward the Sol system, Jake stood in his command center looking at the sensor readings that showed the massive energy barrier surrounding their home. Somewhere behind that barrier, Earth was trapped by beings with technology beyond human understanding. But Jake also knew that humans had somehow been important to the balance of the entire galaxy. If their captors thought they could simply remove humanity from the equation without consequences, they were about to learn why humans had earned their place among the stars. The human fleet gathered at the edge of the Sol system was unlike anything Captain Jake Morrison had ever seen. 40 ships from different colonies and military commands had come together, all trying to understand what had happened to their home world. Admiral Patricia Stone's flagship, the Northern Star, led the formation as they approached the mysterious barrier surrounding Earth. Jake stood on the bridge of Horizon's Edge next to Captain Maria Santos, watching the sensor displays show the massive structure that encased their entire solar system. The barrier was enormous. It stretched beyond Pluto and seemed to be made of some kind of energy that their instruments could barely detect. Admiral Stone is calling for all ship captains to join a conference meeting, Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner announced from his communication station. Jake and Maria transported over to the Northern Star, where they met with the other human captains in the ship's large meeting room. Admiral Stone was a veteran commander who had led human exploration efforts for 20 years. She looked tired but determined as she addressed the assembled officers. We have tried every method of communication we know, Admiral Stone began. Radio signals, quantum transmissions, light patterns, even basic mathematical sequences. Whatever has built this barrier around our system is not responding to any of our attempts to make contact. Commander Susan Blake, the fleet's chief diplomat, added her report. We have also received responses from several alien governments offering assistance. The Zenthari Collective is sending ships despite their own internal problems. Even the Korgoth Empire has offered to help, which is unprecedented since they have never cooperated with humans before. Dr. Lisa Grant, who had been studying the barrier's energy patterns, raised her hand. Admiral, I believe I know why the alien species are so eager to help us. My analysis shows that the deterioration of their racial abilities is accelerating. If we don't resolve this situation soon, some species may lose their defining characteristics completely within a few weeks. Just as Admiral Stone was about to respond, alarms began sounding throughout the Northern Star. Alex Turner's voice came over the communication system. All ships, we have contact. Something is coming out of the barrier. Everyone rushed to the bridge to see a ship emerging from the energy wall surrounding Earth. The vessel was unlike anything in human or alien databases. It seemed to be made of crystalline material that shifted between solid matter and pure light. The ship was massive, easily 10 times larger than the biggest human vessel. They're sending a communication signal, reported the Northern Star's communication officer. It's using multiple transmission methods simultaneously: radio, quantum, telepathic, and some kind of direct consciousness contact. Admiral Stone looked at Commander Blake. Susan, you're our best diplomat. Try to establish communication. Commander Blake activated the communication system. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Susan Blake representing the human space fleet. We wish to speak with you about the barrier surrounding our home system. The response came immediately, but not through the ship's speakers. Instead, the voice seemed to speak directly inside everyone's mind at the same time. The voice was cold and ancient, carrying the weight of countless centuries. We are the Primarchs, the voice said. We are the architects of galactic order. We have come to explain why your species has been contained. A figure materialized on the bridge, not physically, but as some kind of advanced hologram. The being appeared as a tall figure made of shifting crystal and light, constantly changing between solid and energy forms. Its presence filled the room with a sense of immense age and power. "I am the first gardener," the figure announced. "For 50 million years, we have guided the evolution and development of galactic civilization. We have carefully shaped each species to fulfill specific roles in the cosmic order we have designed." Admiral Stone stepped forward. "You're responsible for trapping Earth. Why?" The first gardener's form shifted, showing images in the air around it. The images showed the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, with different species developing along predetermined paths. Each species was given particular gifts and limitations. The Xanthari were designed to be collective consciousness beings who could facilitate communication across vast distances. The Korgoth were created to be warriors who would handle conflicts and maintain order through strength. The Ethereals were developed to exist as pure thought, serving as living computers and philosophers. More images appeared, showing a complex diagram of how different species interacted in what the Primarchs called their galactic garden. Every species had a specific role, and everything was perfectly ordered and controlled. "Your species was not part of our design," the first gardener continued. "Humans appeared in the galaxy as what you might call a wild growth, unplanned and uncontrolled. At first, we thought you would remain limited to your single world and pose no threat to our carefully maintained order." Dr. Grant asked, "What changed?" The images around the first gardener shifted to show human expansion into space and contact with alien species. Humans began to influence other species in ways we had not anticipated. Your chaotic blend of logic and emotion, your tendency toward both cooperation and competition, your ability to adapt and change, these traits began affecting the species around you. Commander Blake looked confused. "How are we affecting them?" "Human consciousness resonates with what you might call the creative force of existence itself," the first gardener explained. "Wherever humans traveled, other species began developing beyond their assigned parameters. The Xanthari started developing individual thoughts within their collective consciousness. The Korgoth began fighting for ideals rather than just dominance. The Ethereals began showing interest in physical existence." Captain Santos spoke up. "So you decided to remove us from the galaxy?" "Containment was the only solution," the first gardener replied. "We created this isolation field to separate Earth from normal spacetime. The field draws energy from your planet to maintain itself while slowly removing human influence from the galaxy. Eventually, all species will return to their original evolutionary paths and order will be restored." Jake felt anger building inside him. "What gives you the right to decide how species should develop?" The first gardener's form became more solid and intimidating. "We have maintained galactic stability for 50 million years. We have prevented wars, guided technological development, and ensured that civilization continues to exist. Your species threatens all of that with your unpredictable nature." Images appeared showing other species in the galaxy throughout history. "We have made similar corrections before," the first gardener continued. "Species that grew beyond their assigned roles and threatened galactic stability were either contained or eliminated. You are not the first and you will not be the last." Commander Blake stepped forward. "What about the other species that are suffering now?" "The Xanthari are losing their telepathic abilities. The Korgoth are losing their warrior nature. The Ethereals are being forced into physical forms. You're destroying what makes them unique. They will return to their original states once human influence is completely removed," the first gardener replied. "This temporary disruption is necessary to restore proper order." Dr. Grant looked at her data tablet. "But what if their original states aren't what's best for them? What if the changes humans inspired actually made them better, more complete beings?" The first gardener's form flickered with what might have been irritation. "Improvement beyond design parameters leads to chaos. We have seen civilizations destroy themselves when they exceed their intended limitations. Control and order are necessary for survival. Admiral Stone had been listening quietly, but now she spoke with authority. We reject your control. Humans will not accept being prisoners, and we won't allow you to force other species back into boxes they have outgrown. You have no choice, the first gardener replied. Your planet provides the energy to maintain the containment field. As long as Earth exists, the field will continue to operate. Your people are trapped, and human influence will continue to fade from the galaxy until order is restored. The images around the first gardener showed the current state of various alien species, all losing their defining characteristics and becoming more baseline, more controlled. Already the process is well underway. Soon, all species will return to their assigned roles, and the galaxy will achieve the stability it was always meant to have. Jake looked around at his fellow officers and saw determination in their faces. They were outnumbered and outgunned by beings with technology beyond their understanding, but they were still human, and being human meant never giving up, even when the odds were impossible. We'll find a way to free Earth and restore balance to the galaxy, Jake said. Not your kind of balance through control, but real balance through choice and growth. The first gardener's form began to fade. You are welcome to try, but understand that we have contained your world using your own life force as power. Every attempt to break the barrier only strengthens our hold on your planet. Earth will remain our prisoner until all human influence has been removed from galactic civilization. As the Primarch ship disappeared back into the barrier, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the Northern Star's meeting room with Admiral Patricia Stone and the other fleet commanders, studying the tactical displays that showed their impossible situation. The Primarch barrier around Earth was powered by the planet itself, which meant any direct attack would only make the prison stronger. But Jake had been thinking about something Dr. Lisa Grant had discovered in her analysis of the galactic situation. Admiral, I have an idea, Jake said. Instead of trying to fight the Primarchs directly, what if we prove them wrong about human influence? Commander Susan Blake looked up from her diplomatic reports. What do you mean? Jake pointed to the data, showing alien species across the galaxy losing their defining characteristics. The Primarchs think human influence causes chaos and threatens their ordered galaxy. But what if we can show that human influence actually helps other species become better versions of themselves? Dr. Grant nodded as she understood Jake's thinking. The Primarchs assume that species can only function properly within their original parameters. But the evidence suggests that contact with humans allows other species to transcend their limitations without losing their essential nature. Admiral Stone considered this. So instead of trying to break the barrier around Earth, we focus on helping the alien species throughout the galaxy. Exactly, Jake replied. We spread human ships throughout the galaxy and work directly with alien populations. We help them remember who they truly are and show them how to grow beyond their original limitations. Captain Maria Santos, who had been quiet during the discussion, suddenly looked excited. Jake, there's something I didn't mention before. During our escape from the Sol system, my crew and I noticed something strange happening to ourselves. Instead of losing our human characteristics, we seemed to become more human, more creative, more determined, more willing to sacrifice for others. Dr. Grant studied her tablet. That makes sense. If the Primarch field is designed to remove human influence from the galaxy, it might have the opposite effect on actual humans. Instead of weakening us, it could be strengthening our essential human qualities. Admiral Stone made her decision. We'll implement Captain Morrison's plan. I'm dividing the fleet into small groups. Each group will travel to a different alien civilization and work with them directly. Commander Blake will coordinate diplomatic efforts. Dr. Grant will develop protocols for helping each species rediscover their potential. Jake volunteered to take the Horizon's Edge to the Zenthari homeworld, where the collective consciousness species was struggling with the loss of their telepathic abilities. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner had studied Zenthari culture and thought he might be able to help them. The journey to the Zenthari homeworld took 6 days. During the trip, Jake noticed changes in his crew that confirmed Maria's observations. Everyone seemed more focused, more determined, and more willing to work together toward their common goal. It was as if being cut off from Earth had somehow concentrated their essential human nature. When they arrived at the Zenthari homeworld, they found a civilization in crisis. The planet's beautiful crystal cities were still functioning, but the harmony that had defined Xanthari society for thousands of years was breaking down. Young Xanthari were being born without the telepathic connections that allowed their species to share thoughts and emotions across vast distances. Jake and Alex met with the Xanthari Council of Voices, the traditional leaders who had guided their species through collective decision-making. The council members appeared as tall, graceful beings with translucent skin and large eyes that had once glowed with shared consciousness. Now those eyes were dim and confused. "We do not understand what has happened to us," said the first voice, the council's primary spokesperson. "Our children are born isolated, trapped in their own minds without connection to the greater whole. Our society is fragmenting as individuals begin to think only for themselves." Alex stepped forward. "What if individual thinking isn't something to fear? What if it's something that can make your collective consciousness even stronger?" The first voice looked puzzled. "How can individual thoughts strengthen collective understanding?" Jake had an idea. On Earth, humans work together most effectively when each person brings their own unique perspective to a common goal. Instead of everyone thinking the same thoughts, what if each Xanthari contributed different ideas to your collective consciousness? Over the following days, Alex worked with young Xanthari who had been born without traditional telepathic abilities. Instead of trying to restore their connection to the collective, he taught them human techniques of individual focus and personal determination. He showed them how to develop their own thoughts and ideas while still caring about their community. Something remarkable began to happen. The young Xanthari discovered that they could choose when to connect with others and when to think independently. Their telepathic abilities returned, but as conscious choices rather than automatic functions. They became individuals who could join collective consciousness when it served their community, but who also had rich inner lives of their own. Meanwhile, Captain Santos took her ship to the Korgoth Empire, where the warrior species was struggling. With the loss of their battle rage and aggressive nature, the Korgoth had built their entire civilization around strength and conquest, but now their warriors were laying down their weapons and refusing to fight. Maria met with General Torx, the leader of the Korgoth military forces. Torx was a massive being with dark skin and natural armor plating, but his usually fierce demeanor was replaced by confusion and sadness. "My warriors no longer feel the blood fire that has driven our people for generations," Torx explained. "They speak of peace and cooperation instead of victory and dominance. Our empire is collapsing because no one wants to fight anymore." Maria had studied human military history and understood something important about courage and strength. "General, what if the problem isn't that your warriors have lost their fighting spirit? What if they've discovered something better to fight for?" She worked with Korgoth military units, teaching them human concepts of fighting for protection rather than conquest, of strength used to defend others rather than to dominate them. She showed them how humans could be both fierce warriors and caring protectors, depending on what the situation required. The Korgoth warriors began to understand that true strength came not from anger and aggression, but from choosing to fight for something greater than themselves. They rediscovered their warrior nature but transformed it into something more noble, the strength to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Dr. Grant traveled to the realm of the ethereal communion, where beings of pure energy and thought were being forced into physical forms. The ethereals had existed as living consciousness for millions of years, but now they were developing solid bodies and losing their transcendent nature. The ethereal beings communicated through direct thought transmission, appearing as shifting patterns of light and energy. But now many of them were trapped in crude physical forms that limited their ability to exist as pure consciousness. "We are diminishing," communicated the prime ethereal. "Our essence is being corrupted by base matter. We fear we are dying as our true selves disappear." Dr. Grant had studied human philosophy about the relationship between mind and body. What if physical existence doesn't diminish consciousness, but gives it new ways to express itself? What if having a body allows you to experience the universe in ways that pure energy cannot? She worked with younger ethereals who were developing physical forms, teaching them to see their new bodies not as prisons, but as tools for experiencing reality in different ways. She showed them human concepts of embodied consciousness, the idea that mind and body could work together to create experiences that neither could achieve alone. The ethereals began to embrace their transformation, discovering that they could exist simultaneously as both energy and matter, thought and physical presence. They became something new, beings who could transcend the limitations of either pure energy or pure matter. Throughout the galaxy, the pattern repeated as human crews worked with different alien species. The humans didn't try to restore other species to their original forms. They helped them evolve beyond what they had been before. Each species discovered new possibilities that combined their original nature with expanded capabilities inspired by human influence. Back at the Sol system barrier, sensors detected something unexpected. The Primarch containment field was beginning to show strain. Energy fluctuations appeared throughout the structure as the imprisoned Earth somehow began to resist its captors. Jake received reports from human crews throughout the galaxy. Every species they had contacted was not only recovering their essential nature, but growing beyond their previous limitations. The Xanthari had become individuals who could choose collective consciousness. The Korgoth had become warriors who fought for protection rather than conquest. The ethereals had become beings who existed in multiple states simultaneously. The galaxy was evolving in ways the Primarchs had never anticipated, and Earth itself seemed to be responding to the growth of consciousness throughout space. The prison that was meant to contain humanity was beginning to crack under the pressure of unlimited potential. Captain Jake Morrison received the urgent message while he was still working with the Xanthari Council on their homeworld. The message came from Admiral Patricia Stone at the Sol system, and her voice carried both excitement and concern. All human ships returned to the Sol system immediately. The Admiral's voice crackled through the communication system. Something is happening to Earth. The barrier is failing, but not in the way we expected. Jake and Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner quickly prepared the Horizon's Edge for departure. During their work with the Xanthari, they had seen remarkable changes in the alien species. Young Xanthari were now able to choose when to connect with their collective consciousness while maintaining individual thoughts and creativity. The transformation had been so successful that Xanthari from other worlds were traveling to learn these new abilities. The journey back to Sol system took 5 days, and during that time, Jake received similar reports from other human crews throughout the galaxy. Captain Maria Santos reported that the Korgoth warriors had not only regained their strength, but had discovered a new kind of courage based on protecting others rather than conquering them. Dr. Lisa Grant's work with the ethereals had resulted in beings who could exist as both energy and matter simultaneously, experiencing reality in ways that neither pure consciousness nor pure physicality could achieve alone. When the Horizon's Edge arrived at the Sol system, Jake was amazed by what he saw. The massive Primarch barrier was still there, but it was flickering and changing. Strange lights pulsed through the crystalline structure, and energy readings showed that something inside the barrier was fighting back. Admiral Stone's flagship welcomed Jake aboard for an emergency meeting with all the human captains who had returned from their missions throughout the galaxy. Commander Susan Blake had also returned with extraordinary news from her diplomatic efforts. "The alien governments are no longer just offering to help us," Susan reported. "They're demanding to help us. The Xanthari Collective has sent a fleet of ships crewed by their new individual collective consciousness beings. The Korgoth Empire has dispatched their finest warriors, who now fight for the protection of all species rather than their own dominance. Even the ethereal communion has manifested physical forms specifically to assist in whatever comes next." Dr. Grant showed her analysis of the barrier's current condition. The Primarch containment field is experiencing massive power fluctuations, but the energy isn't being drained away, it's being transformed into something else entirely. Jake studied the readings. "What kind of transformation?" "Earth isn't weakening under the isolation field," Dr. Grant explained. "It's growing stronger. Every human in the galaxy seems to be connected to our homeworld in ways we never understood, and that connection is feeding power back to Earth itself." Admiral Stone activated the main display, which showed sensor readings from inside the barrier. "We've managed to penetrate the field with long-range scanners. Earth is still there, but it's changed. The planet is generating its own energy field that's interfering with the Primarch containment system. As they watched, the barrier around the Sol system began to collapse. But instead of simply disappearing, it transformed into something beautiful. Streams of energy that flowed back toward Earth and then radiated outward again, creating connections between Earth and every human ship in the galaxy. Suddenly, the space around them filled with massive ships as the Primarch fleet emerged from hiding. The first Gardener's vessel appeared directly in front of the human fleet, but this time the ancient being's crystalline form looked agitated and uncertain. "What have you done?" the first Gardener's mental voice demanded. "The species throughout the galaxy are no longer reverting to their original parameters. They are evolving beyond anything we designed." Commander Blake stepped forward to handle the communication. "They're not reverting because they don't want to go backward. They want to grow and become more than they were before." The first Gardener's form flickered with what appeared to be confusion. "But growth beyond design parameters leads to chaos. We have maintained galactic order for 50 million years by preventing such changes." Jake joined the conversation. "Your kind of order was really control? You kept species in boxes and called it stability. But real balance comes from growth, change, and choice." Images began appearing around the first Gardener, showing the current state of various alien species throughout the galaxy. But instead of showing chaos and disorder, the images revealed something remarkable. Young Xanthari who could be both individual and collective, Korgoth warriors who fought with both strength and wisdom, ethereal beings who existed in multiple states of reality simultaneously. Every species had grown beyond their original limitations while maintaining their essential nature. "This is impossible," the first Gardener said. "Unlimited growth should result in conflict and destruction." Dr. Grant showed her data. "Look at the actual results. Species that have grown beyond their original parameters are more stable, more creative, and more capable of cooperation than they were before. The chaos you feared hasn't happened. Instead, we're seeing unprecedented cooperation between different forms of consciousness." As if to prove her point, ships from dozens of different alien species began appearing throughout the Sol system. Xanthari vessels with crews of individual collective beings, Korgoth warships crewed by protective warriors, ethereal energy constructs piloted by consciousness matter hybrid beings. All of them had come to help humanity confront the Primarchs. The first Gardener's form became more solid as other Primarch beings materialized around it. Jake could see that they were having some kind of internal debate through methods of communication beyond human understanding. "For 50 million years we have prevented the galaxy from growing beyond our control," the first Gardener finally said. "We believed that order and stability required limitations and boundaries, but your species has demonstrated something we did not anticipate." The ancient being gestured toward the Earth, which was now visible as the last remnants of the containment barrier dissolved. The planet glowed with an inner light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with human consciousness throughout the galaxy. "Earth has become something more than a simple planet," the first Gardener continued. "It has evolved into a focal point for consciousness itself. Your species' connection to your homeworld and to each other has created a new kind of existence that transcends our understanding." Commander Blake asked, "Does this mean you'll stop trying to control galactic evolution?" Another Primarch being stepped forward. This one appeared younger and more flexible than the first Gardener. "We are the second growth," it said. "We have observed what your species and the others have achieved. Perhaps it is time for us to grow beyond our own original parameters." Jake felt hope building inside him. "What does that mean?" "It means we are willing to learn," the second growth replied. "For 50 million years we have been gardeners who kept every plant exactly as we designed it. But you have shown us the beauty of wild growth, of species choosing to become more than their original design." The first Gardener's form began to change, becoming less rigid and more flowing. "We propose a new arrangement. Instead of controlling galactic evolution, we offer to guide it. We have knowledge of cosmic scale engineering and deep time perspectives. Your species offers adaptability and the ability to inspire growth beyond expected limits. Together, We could help galactic civilization achieve things that neither control nor chaos alone could accomplish. Admiral Stone looked at her fellow humans and then at the representatives from dozens of alien species who had gathered in the Sol system. What would this cooperation look like? The second growth created images showing possible futures. Galactic civilization where every species is free to grow and evolve, but with ancient wisdom available to guide that growth. Cooperation between order and innovation, tradition and change, individual will and collective purpose. Dr. Grant studied the projections. It would mean the end of predetermined roles for different species. Yes, the first gardener admitted. And the end of our absolute control. We would become advisors and teachers rather than rulers and controllers. Jake looked around at the humans and aliens who had come together to face this challenge. Young, Zenthari who had learned to balance individual thought with collective consciousness. Korgoth warriors who had discovered strength through protection rather than conquest. Ethereal beings who had embraced both energy and matter, and humans who had somehow inspired all of this growth simply by being themselves. We accept your proposal, Jake said, speaking for humanity. But with the understanding that growth and choice will always come before control and order, the first gardener's form began to take on new characteristics, still ancient and crystalline, but somehow more alive and flexible. Agreed. Let us begin to learn what true balance really means. As agreements were reached and new relationships formed, Earth settled into its new role not as the center of galactic civilization but as its heart. The planet glowed with the combined consciousness of humanity, serving as a reminder that the greatest achievements come not from following predetermined plans but from having the courage to become more than anyone expected.